Hi, I'm Janet Fielding. I played Tegan in Doctor Who, the Five-ish Fangirls. Have a good time.
The tangents as we continue all the way to episode 62 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Where does it come from, this quest? This need to solve life's mysteries when the simplest of questions can never be answered. Why are we here? What is the soul? Why do we dream? Perhaps we'd be better off not looking at all, not delving, yet not yearning. But that's not the human nature, not the human heart. That is not why we are here. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like we do every week by going around the virtual table and see who has joined us this week.
This is Brittany in Belvedere. This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City. This is Hannah from Wisconsin. This is Mitch in Kitchener, Ontario.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello everyone.
Hello.
We are here.
I always feel like we should sing our hellos when we do that.
No. We're not singing anything. Even without the allergy attacks, you do not want me singing. Trust me. We will leave.
It just has a lyrical quality to it.
Well, yes, that's true. No, we will leave the singing to someone else.
The Marvel Dubsmash Wars.
Exactly, which we'll get to. So,
yes, we shall.
We have a lot to talk about. You would think with stuff coming back that the news will be on the lighter side, but that would be wrong. So, with that, let's jump straight into news, starting with the 10 o'clock news. That's not quite your 10 o'clock news, but still we're sad.
9:30.
It's 9:30. It's 9:30 news instead of 10 o'clock news because no one's dead, thank goodness. But we've all died a little inside. We kind of knew it was going to come eventually. We just we're hoping against hope that maybe not now. But if you've been anywhere near the social medias, then you probably saw the cries and in some cases cheers of joy for some people. Jenna Coleman is leaving Doctor Who.
Well, I guess my theory about
officially
her staying at Salt Lake, yeah. I guess my theory about her not canceling Salt Lake Comic-Con to film Christmas because she was just not going to be in Christmas but come back season 10 was wrong.
Yeah. Maybe.
And like I said on the plus for the show before we started recording, it's a piece of news I'm trying to pretend I don't know.
Yeah. Because it makes the rest of the season, there's no time frame yet at the moment. They haven't said if she's going to leave after Christmas, but it's probably safe to assume that Christmas will be her last. But you just never know. She could stick and do a half season in 10 like Karen and Arthur did in season 7, possibly, maybe.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's until they say otherwise, we're just going to assume she's leaving at Christmas and we're all sad.
Can I just say there are some fan sites that I saw on Facebook like the day. I mean, this has been rumored for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, no, don't, until the BBC says we're not going to say anything. And then the BBC said. So the day that the BBC's official press release, whatever, said, yes, she is leaving, I saw a whole bunch of Doctor Who fan sites say, who do you want to see replace her? And I'm like, dude, we're just getting the news that Clara is Ezra's dad.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. And, it's pointless to speculate anyway, just like it's pointless to speculate when a new doctor is coming in or they're regenerating, saying, who do you want the new doctor to be? It's like, same thing. Who do you want the new companion to be? I'm like, whoever they decide to make it be. I mean, can we have a day at least to kind of come to terms with the fact that Clara is leaving?
Yeah.
I'm like, good grief.
Yeah. It might, and once the rumor was out, it was from the Mirror, which again, the Mirror, you gotta take everything they say with a grain of salt. Occasionally they get things right.
Apparently they did this time.
This time they did, but then BBC News was reporting the same story, but using the Mirror as their source, which gave it a bit more credibility. If the BBC News thought that the Mirror was right, then it had a bit more gravitas to it, I guess. But then a couple days after, there was an official announcement from the BBC and the Doctor Who camp. But again, no time frame, and I feel kind of bad for Jenna, because going into Salt Lake Comic-Con next week, and this is all people are going to want to talk about.
That is true, and I'm kind of like, ugh, whatever.
Yeah.
But when I meet her, because I did, huh?
Makes me wonder who leaked it.
Oh, somebody, and they're not very good at keeping these things secret.
No.
But I will say this, and I actually bought it the day before this was announced officially. Anyway, I'll get to that. But anyway, I pre-ordered, or I pre-bought Jenna Coleman's autograph just because I wanted to be sure to get one of them, because everybody's been canceling. And I got it the day before, and I'm like, and I heard the news, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make sure I don't, when I get up to talk to her, if I get to talk to her for any amount of time. I was like, I'm not even gonna bring it up. I'm just gonna say, I love you as Clara. You're awesome, and
I want your wardrobe.
all that kind of stuff. Yes. Well, I wish I was. I couldn't pull off her wardrobe because I'm too tall and broad-shouldered, and she's like tiny.
Yes, she is.
But anyway, so I know I'm going to try to get into her panel next week if I can figure out the way you have to do it. 'Cause it's going to be so packed. But more on that later.
Yeah.
Well,
actually, that's a good segue.
that is a good segue, actually, because the next piece of news is about Salt Lake Comic-Con. They have unofficially become the Captain America Comic-Con.
It's Captain America Con.
Pretty much. Anthony Mackie is coming, so now we have... Oh, and there's a couple other things going on. So Anthony Mackie's coming to Salt Lake Comic-Con, who is Sam Wilson / the Falcon / the guy who got his butt kicked by an ant.
Don't let Kat find out about it.
We got Chris Evans, Sebastian Stan, and Haley Atwell, and now Anthony Mackie. And there was an extra bit of news that just came out, I think today, because Chris Evans is only supposed to be there Saturday. Sebastian Stan's scheduled to only be there Friday. They got it to where Chris Evans is going to be there for a few hours on Friday. So because I saw some joint photo ops with Chris and Sebastian that they had available. They're like $200, and I looked at it, I'm like, not happening. So there is that, and then also they announced yesterday that they're doing, because the Chris Evans panel, they're going to do Chris Evans and Anthony Mackie are going to have a panel together, and I'm sure Haley Atwell is going to crash it because she said she was going to do that. So because there are so many people, because there are so many people that are going to want to be in Chris Evans' panel, they did this lottery sort of thing. So if you have, and people are getting really upset about it, especially people who bought VIP passes, because VIP usually gets in early, and they're like, well, why did we buy VIP if this isn't going to guarantee him a seat? But the thing is, and I've seen this several times, and people don't realize, there are more seats in the panel than there are VIP passes that have been sold, and they're not selling them anymore. So I'm hoping this gets out. So if you have a VIP pass and you want to go to the Chris Evans panel, you enter the lottery, you are pretty much guaranteed a seat, because they're going to draw the VIP lottery first, and then they'll draw the other passes. I entered the lottery. I only have a multi-pass, so I probably, it's a long shot that I'll get in, but I'm like, I might as well try. I mean, this is better than having to shell out another $100-$200 just to get into one panel. So if I get it, great. If not, everybody will be in the panel, and the vendors hall will be clear.
Exactly. That'd be a good time to go talk to some artists and
Yeah.
other folks.
See if I can go find another autograph or something.
I bet the lines for the
So-
bathrooms will be really short. That'd be a good time to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's true. I can go get some dinner. Or
Yeah,
something.
go get something to eat.
I have my little sister with me. This is her first convention.
And you can just follow the panel via Instagram and Twitter.
That's true. Look it up on Twitter. I'm sure at least
That's what we do for San Diego. We just live vicariously through Twitter.
that. Yep, that is true. Although they have teased they are doing some other creative workarounds that they haven't announced yet. So there might even be some overflow somewhere, and they have it streamed on TV. So
That'd be cool.
you know what? I'm not worried about it. People are freaking out because that is the nature of human beings to freak out. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to Comic-Con. What do I need to freak out about? And it's impossible. This is the thing about going to conventions. And then I'll shut up and we'll get on to the rest of the news. It is impossible to see and meet everything and everyone that you want to at a Comic-Con. It just is a fact of it. There's so much to do at a finite amount of time. Once you come to terms with that fact, you will have the greatest time of your life. You you'll just say, you know what, I did.
Who will be on at the same time, and you'll have to pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. And
The evening with the Doctor's Companions and the Hogwarts reunion were at pretty much the same time at Fan Expo. So
Yeah.
I had to make I wanted to go to the Hogwarts reunion, but I wanted to go to the evening with the Doctor's Companion.
Yep. So once you get it in your mind, like, okay, we can't see everything, but let's get as much as we can, and
And there
then you'll be happy.
I wanted to go to that were on during my volunteership, so I had to miss those.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people that all want to
Yeah.
see the same things, and there's just not enough room, and that's reality.
I was able to catch the end of the Carmilla panel on Friday, and get their autographs at the end of it. That was really cool.
So see, you still got to meet them.
I still got to meet them. I had to wait 2 hours, but I still got to meet them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the good thing about this lottery thing is that, and they 100%, is that, you could be sitting in line for like hours and hours and hours and not get in, and then you'd be mad because you spent all that time at your convention sitting in line and you didn't get into the panel. And I'm like, that happens at San Diego Comic-Con, doesn't it? But so I'm glad they're doing it this way, because I think it's the best solution.
That way you know
given
ahead of
the
time that
situation.
you're not going to be facing,
Yeah.
you're not going to get in.
And then you can say, okay, I'm going to go do something else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still going to go have fun and not be ticked off. So anyway, that's the end of my soapbox. Salt Lake Comic-Con's next week, and I am super excited. And I got my cosplay all ready to go, and it looks awesome. And I'm going to toss it over to Holly, who's got
And speaking of
stuff.
Marvel-ish things, we have a new soundtrack to be prepping for. Marvel announces Cosmic Mix Volume 1. Marvel Music will release the soundtrack for Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy on October 16th. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Mix Volume 1 from the animated television series is a collection of 12 songs featured in the show's season. The new animated action-packed epic space adventure following the ragtag band of disparate misfits debuts with a special 1-hour premiere featuring back-to-back episodes on Saturday, September 26th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Disney XD. And the track listing his Hooked on Feeling, Funk 49, Drift Away, Walk Away, Boys Are Back in Town, Shake Your Groove Thing, Funk, Joy of the World, I Will Survive, Rocky Mountain Way, So You Are a Star, and Don't Stop Me Now.
I love that there's Queen.
Track listing, but I want to know where's the Awesome Mix Volume 2?
Honestly,
We'll
I
get it
have at
eventually.
least half of those on my iTunes already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a good amount of those already.
Yeah, I would say if you have
I
Awesome
think I
Mix
already
Volume
have it.
1, you already got
Awesome
Blue
Mix.
Swede, so.
Yep, I definitely got that.
Yeah.
I'll have to
And
go
I-
through and make sure and see exactly. I know I have Joy to the World for sure.
There's a few I don't recognize, but for the most part, I'm all like, yeah.
And I'm sure as soon as if it's one you don't know, if you hear it like, oh, okay, that's what it's actually called.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has happened
because
recently.
but you see the title, I'm like, I don't know this one. Then you hear the music. Oh yeah, I've heard this a million times.
I just didn't know that's what it was called. Exactly.
So,
Anything to keep us occupied until we get volume 2.
indeed.
I love that they're carrying that over into the animated series, though, with the classic rock.
Maybe this is meant to be. I mean, not in as connected as like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but maybe this is meant to be kind of a fill-in of here's what the Guardians of the Galaxy are up to between movie 1 and movie 2, just in animated form.
Maybe. Kind of like the Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I guess Star Wars would be a better analog to that because they have Clone Wars and
Rebels.
And,
Yep.
Yeah. Good point.
Maybe.
So when I'm I have to decide of when I'm gonna actually watch it, but I'm gonna watch this.
Yeah.
It's on the same time as Doctor Who, which is problematic. Timing.
3 letters, Brittany. DVR.
That's right, I do have DVR. Woo, like.
Oh, technology. It's a wonderful thing.
What did we do in the
When
days
it
before
walks.
DVR and digital downloads? I don't remember. It really wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, no, it's like.
We'll get to that. That comes into play on the topic at hand for some of us.
This is true. This is true.
Shall be discussed. We'll bring that topic, that point up again momentarily.
Alright, well, if we're done with music.
Yes.
Yep. Go on.
Staying with Marvel,
Yes.
Doctor Strange possibly has the leading lady. Maybe. We don't know. Actually, I don't know. Anyway, having been rumored for weeks and recently confirmed talks with Marvel, now Rachel McAdams has come out with it and confirmed that she's been cast in Doctor Strange. Rachel McAdams confirmed to the news to the Wrap while appearing at this weekend's Toronto Film Festival, but sees her join Benedict Cumberbatch as Stephen Strange and Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. McAdams' character remains a mystery and no specific details are known. Marvel has yet to officially announce the news.
Yep. The assumption is that she's going to play Doctor Strange's love interest, but again, it's not been confirmed, therefore it's all speculation on what part she's going to play.
All we know is she's in the movie.
Yep. I don't think I've ever seen anything with her in it.
I've seen stuff, I just can't think off the top of my head, but I know.
Isn't she in The Notebook?
She was.
Is she the one in The Notebook, or is it someone else?
She was. Blah blah blah. Think, brain. Come on, help.
I know,
Dark Knight. I think she was the lady in Dark Knight because Maggie Gyllenhaal played what's her bucket in the first one, and then they recast her. I think it was Rachel McAdams in Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises.
I know her face if I saw it, but I
name.
don't know what all she's been in. So
I think it's her.
Well, good for her. Whoever, I guess.
Oh, I know who I know her from. She's from the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. She was Irene Adler. That's where I know her from.
Again, I have not seen those yet, so I have not seen them.
Which shocks me seeing how
well, you need to because they're quite good.
I know. I love Robert Downey Jr.
So come on.
I know.
Let's see. I'm looking it up because I would feel really dumb if I got that. Okay, no, she's not in Batman.
To the end of
I'm certain now. I got to figure out who that was.
Oh, IMDb, please help us.
Oh, she was in Mean Girls.
Yeah, she's been in a bunch of stuff. I got that mixed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, she was in The Vow.
Okay, wait, Okay, so Maggie Gyllenhaal was in Dark Knight. Who was it in Batman Begins? Oh, Katie Holmes. Duh.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
She was in The Notebook.
Forget
Okay.
I brought. Okay.
Not that I've seen that, but we've all seen the shot of the kissing in the rain. So.
Oh yes.
But
that has to be really uncomfortable trying to kiss in the rain.
probably.
I would imagine.
If you ever talk, you can ask her or Toby Maguire, and they'll be able to tell us, I guess.
Anyway, plot bunny.
Anyway.
Me away to odd place.
Moving on.
Moving on, please. Move on. Move along. These are the droids we're looking for.
Yes. Sticking to the Marvel Universe, though.
Yes, we've got the first pictures from Jessica Jones.
Woo!
With Jessica Jones looking all broody.
About that. Woo!
Jessica Jones looks broody, and I want to play with David Tennant's hair.
Well, that's not
the funny
news.
Hair.
Yeah, the funniest thing about this post is just it's on Facebook and it's Marvel releasing the pictures. So there's like a series of like 5 or 6 pictures. Most of them are Jessica Jones, and there's one of David Tennant looking,
Doctor-ish.
David Tennant, and yes, very doctorish with a real like kind of a scowl on his face. It's like if the 10th Doctor took over the 12th Doctor's persona, and the funniest thing was, I was looking through these. The picture of David Tennant had the most likes and comments on it. Like they all had like, oh, this is nice. Oh, this is how Jessica's gonna look. This looks like fun. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it's David Tennant. I love you.
Pretty much.
And I was like, yep.
Marvel's been doling out the eye candy. Recently.
I shall not complain.
They know there's no movies coming out anytime soon, so they got to keep dropping other stuff. So we're getting like the pictures of Jessica Jones, and I shared on our Facebook page the poster for the new season Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I shared it from Clark Gregg's Facebook page, and Clark Gregg put "Don't make me take off my suit," and I'm like, yes, please, because they're all tough, because we're used to seeing, the Team S.H.I.E.L.D. looking all jeans and, May's usually in leather and looking all tough, and Fitz and Simmons are all nerdy yet kind of tough at the same time because they're Fitz and Simmons. But you're used to seeing Coulson in the suit. It's something that Chauncey and I have kind of had a laugh over as Chauncey's been making his way through the season's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is like they'll go into these situations and they've got the bulletproof vests on, and Coulson still has on his suit with the bulletproof vest on underneath.
The Marvel's man in the suit.
Yes, but the new
John Reese.
Yeah, the new image and the photos that Marvel has released for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Coulson's not in the suit, and I'm loving it because I love me some Phil Coulson.
Yep. So, yay, Marvel.
Yep.
Keep it coming, people. And, well, we're staying in the Disney realm of the universe. Which, okay, I just remembered something.
Yes.
It's not on the list. But if any of you follow Lou Mongello's Facebook page, I know Rachel probably does.
Oh, yes.
He's been posting a bunch of... He's been going through some old boxes and posting pictures of them on Instagram of, like, what's in it. Mostly it's Disney-related stuff, but, like, from way back in the day.
Yeah.
And there was one picture that he posted, and he didn't even point this out, but it's, like, a bunch of books from, Disney old-school books. But in the back, there's a Star Wars comic book, and this is long before... This thing was obviously published long before Disney bought Star Wars. But if you listen to Lou's podcast, you know he's a big Star Wars geek. And we love him for it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a Star Wars comic book, and at the top it says Marvel Special Edition. And I'm just sitting, and I saw that, and I just started laughing. It's like there's all these Disney books and Star Wars published by Marvel from like back in the 70s, or I guess it'd be the 80s or something, late 70s, early 80s. And I just was like, yep. Little did they know. Yeah. Anyway,
now Disney can do that, and the licensing's all theirs.
It's all there.
It's
It's like,
all
well,
loves
Disney now.
it.
Okay, anyway, that wasn't what I was there to point out, but I just remembered that. Anyway, we have the first trailer for the live-action remake of The Jungle Book. And I'd kind of forgotten they were doing this. But this is
It is
I
still
watched
kind
this
no,
trailer.
no, it is still kind of Marvel related because Jon Favreau is directing it, so
Yeah, Jon Favreau's directing it. Idris Elba's in it, and so is Scarlett Johansson. In
Yes.
fact, Scarlett Johansson, I didn't realize she was playing Ka,
I didn't either.
which is
I heard the voice and I'm like, what the crap
Yeah.
is this?
because you can tell it's Scarlett Johansson doing the voiceover, and it's like all mysterious and dark and gritty all throughout this whole thing, and then at the end it shows this CGI snake, and Scarlett Johansson's voice is coming out of it, and it's very hissy and slithery, and and I'm like, okay, that's cool. And so it looks very dark and actiony, and lots of peril and danger and grittiness. And then the trailer ends, but then it comes back and you see Mowgli and Baloo floating down the river, and you hear the bears starting to sing the Bare Necessities, and I'm like, and if you've seen the song, the Bare Necessities.
Oh yes.
It's just the first few notes going do do do. Do, 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 do.
Yeah.
And after this really dark and gritty trailer, it kind of was a strange juxtaposition there, and I was like, is this supposed to be really gritty action adventure-y, or is there supposed to be some humor to it too?
Well, both. I kind of liken it to
I'm
the Age of
intrigued at
Ultron trailer where it's like, death, destruction, and killer robots, and then you got Ultron singing "I Got No Strings on Me" from Pinocchio.
But the thing about that is, like, he was singing it very menacingly.
Well, yes, that's
this
true.
one with Baloo singing the Bare Necessities, it's like I'm expecting him to get up and start dancing.
Well, Bill Murray is
After-
voicing Baloo, so
Yeah. So
It kind
I
of
don't know. I
fits.
just was like, that's odd.
yeah.
But
Well, they've been doing that with the live action. There's these live action remakes though, because they're based on the Disney animated, which are all musicals. So they're putting some of the either lyrics or tunes into these remakes, so that they kind
that is
of
true.
So
they are. I mean, connected to.
yeah. This
the animated.
this isn't the Jungle Book that we grew up on as kids. Definitely not.
No, definitely not. But it's still. I guess they're trying to convey that the spirit is still there,
Yeah.
which is kind of because I watched.
Yeah. Even with all
because I watched. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I watched the Walt Disney American Experience documentary that was on PBS this past week,
I have not
and I'm
finished
like
that
all
yet.
kind of hyped up on Disney nostalgia
Yeah.
from way back when. The Jungle Book was the last one he actually worked on
Yeah.
before he died.
Yeah.
Even though it came out the year after he died, but anyway, we'll see how it goes. I'm just intrigued about the trailer.
The early stuff, because those movies take a long time to make.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So he could have started the ball rolling on that and done some work on in the early days before he passed on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I like watching that documentary. Like when the way they explained it, I'm like, well, of course, like Snow White, because it was like when they were doing Snow White, because that was a brand new idea to do an anime feature film. Of course, it would have taken that long to do it and do it right. And I'm like, man, I kind of want to rewatch Snow White and just kind of try to kind of inhabit the mind of someone who'd never seen anything like this before, and kind of be like, what was it like to see that for the first time, and how realistic it was, and it's just animation.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying like this is just pen and paper, ink and paper. This is just drawings, and they're moving, and you're crying, and you're so much emotion, and I'm like, yeah, you're kind of right. Anyway, tangenting again.
It's Disney.
It's not huge a tangent. It's just a little one within the rest of Disney.
Yep.
Yeah, that is true. I just have a lot of thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's in the head? Moving on to
a
not Disney related at all,
no, completely.
but still feels.
But there's a new trailer for Mockingjay Part 2.
And we use the term trailer loosely here.
Loosely.
Because like I said before we were recording, spoiler alert, this is more of an in memoriam than a trailer.
Yeah. This trailer assumes that you have read the book.
Yes.
And you are still not over it. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess if you haven't read the book, it could be interpreted one of two ways, and if you don't know who exactly the focus is, but if you have read the books, then you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But we won't go any further into that, just in case. At least right now. We will do, I've got it on the calendar right before, I think the week of, we're going to discuss the Hunger Games as a whole, and the movies and the books and all that, so. Since it shall be the end of the series. Or not, depending on who you believe.
Oh boy.
I know there's been these GIF sets with the I don't know if it's a poem or something, but it's like, I'm hanging for the castle, they want to make me their queen. There's an old man sitting on the throne who tells me I probably shouldn't be so mean. Have you seen those GIF sets with the Hunger Games?
I have not.
I haven't.
I can imagine it, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't read.
I can visualize it.
I've seen them on Tumblr a few times, those sorts of things.
Yeah. And this is just a reminder that I should probably reread the books before the last one comes out.
Probably.
I meant to do that before
might
Mockingjay Part 1 came out, and I never got around to it.
And now 1 year later.
1 year later, I should probably get on that.
I mean, they're pretty quick reads, actually.
Oh yeah, they
all
are.
the time. It's like you start reading, and then you look up, you're like, oh, 3 hours have passed. And I've been reading this whole time.
Yep.
So I guess quick is a relative term.
Well, it is 3 books.
You don't realize time's passing. How about that?
Yeah.
Yes, there
it's
you
an
go.
engaging read.
Yep.
How's that? Anywho's, so quickly coming up, November 20th, I think. Is that when it comes out? Something like that?
Yep, November 20th, Thanksgiving week in the United States.
So I've got a March.
I think.
And then last but certainly not least in the news, like I said last week, we're going to keep talking about this as long as there's something to talk about. So time for this week's Dubsmash War catch-up. Round 2 has officially kicked off, again with Team Carter putting their entry out first. And Clark Gregg's not going to be happy with this. Coulson somewhere is really ticked off that somebody touched Lola and it's not him. That, and I think that James Darcy deserves some sort of bonus for allowing himself to be put in these ridiculous outfits.
This is another one.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't. I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't his idea.
Well, yeah, I know. It's just.
Yeah, probably.
It's just he does.
It's sort of neatly at the end of a sentence.
Yeah.
Team Carter. Which,
yeah. It's not as neat as the first one.
Not as neat. It's kind of it's like the very end of the last word.
Right. So, but it's got Stan Lee in it, so you kind of forgive.
Yeah. So it's like maybe half a second.
Yeah.
Of the.
And all I know is I've watched this one, and you've got Haley dressed up like pin-up, sitting in the passenger seat of what Lola, Coulson's car from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You got James Darcy also dressed up, kind of pin-up-ish, acting like he's washing Lola, and you've got Stanley in the driver's seat, and Stanley is just grinning, and it just reminds me of like a somebody's grandma or grandpa at like a family event, and they're not entirely sure what's going on, but they're so entertained they don't care. That's kind of the look that Stanley has on his face. He's like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on here, but I'm in this cool car next to this hot woman, so I'm just going to sit here and take it.
Yeah. Oh. And this is how we know it's I'm going to jokingly call it official, because now we have a Stan Lee cameo in the Dubsmash.
That's true. The Dubsmash is official. It's canon.
Yeah.
And they are back to being almost neck and neck. Team Shield had skyrocketed way into the lead with their round 1 entry, but now it is back to within less than $2,000 between the two teams, with Team Carter slightly ahead. But eventually we'll get Team Shield, and we'll see what happens based on the other entry for round 2, and based on that I shall decide who gets my money for this round. So I don't know how Shield is gonna top a Stan Lee cameo though, so
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Geez, they got like Stan Lee. Well, this was before the war. They also had Chris Evans. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. Even if their round 3 entry doesn't come from Salt Lake Comic Con, I really hope that Haley puts out a Dubsmash while they're at Salt Lake, Chrissy.
I hope they do. I hope she does something.
Yeah.
While she's there, I'm like, it's a prime opportunity, Haley.
Yes.
You got it.
You can do
We will
it.
see. Yeah, and the fact, and I'll be at the con, so you guys will probably see all the stuff on social media from the convention before I do.
Yes.
Like it'll be like Monday before I see anything, because I've got like I said, my sister's gonna be here, and I've got to take her back to school, which is her where she goes to school is like 2 hours away. I gotta take her back to school on Sunday, so I'm like, so I won't see anything till way later.
Yeah. That is it for news. But before we get to the topic, we actually have feedback this week. And we should preface this by saying we got this feedback because the fabulous people over at Doctor Who Legacy saw somebody share our show that we did a couple weeks ago about Doctor Who Legacy. Somebody else shared it and tagged them on Facebook. They saw it. They shared it on their Facebook page, and people saw it, and somebody decided to send us feedback because of it.
Yep.
And we were all a little
And you know what?
gobsmacked.
Yeah, and I actually went back and re-listened to it, and I was listening to it, and I'm like, man, this episode was really good. I'm glad this is something that everybody found. Because that one didn't seem to have a lot of technical issues or anything.
Us technical issues? Never.
Never. I think maybe I got dropped once, but I think that was it.
Yep. So,
But on the whole, it was a good episode.
Yeah. So the feedback was sent by someone named Christopher, so he writes, I found out about your podcast through the Doctor Who Legacy Facebook page. I am a pro player at Doctor Who Legacy, and here are some suggested teams you can use. And he goes through multiple teams of pretty much every color, and I don't think we want to necessarily go over them, so we'll post them on our blog, and probably post them on Facebook too. So if you're a Doctor Who Legacy player and you want some suggestions for some teams, he's got a lot of them.
And I'm always looking for new teams and new combinations and like Rachel said, we could read these out, but it would be really hard to follow.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll post them on the website.
Yeah,
and he's got a lot of explanations of like how the moves and stuff work with some of these.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is like, yeah, you are a pro player at this, Christopher. Like, mad props to you. This is great. I love it. I'll try. I'll definitely have to try a couple of these, especially now that I have the Sonic Adventure characters. I can do because he includes some of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But just looking at them, I'm like, oh, I don't have those characters yet. It gives me a goal to work towards, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it there.
Getting these
something.
characters so I can make these teams. So and see how I do.
Although, speaking of Doctor Who Legacy, they're gonna start their Series 9 levels tomorrow.
Yay!
Woo! Woo! Which hopefully we've all seen the episode before we get there, because usually there's something somewhat spoilerish.
Yeah.
Not terribly spoilery, but it's there.
Not terribly, but yeah, if you haven't seen the episode before you play, you probably should watch the episode before you play the level based on that episode.
I think the prize is a new character, and I'm guessing I think I know who the character is, but I could be wrong. I'm not going to say it just in case.
Yep. We'll find out.
I'm assuming I think they said a character. I don't remember now. I think they said new character.
They usually do, or a costume.
They did new characters last year for the Series 8 bonus levels.
We'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thank you, Christopher, for your feedback. It's awesome to get fan mail.
Yes.
Or listener mail.
Yeah.
Feedback. And this
Feedback.
feedback. We got some feedback. However he has it.
And
Jazz hands.
Sorry, Sean, you do it so much better than we do.
Yeah.
Oh, he hasn't been doing it for a
We
long
are
time,
That's true.
We are a poor substitute.
We try. We try. So, but yeah, thank you, Christopher, for the feedback. And again, thank you to whoever it was that originally shared our show. It was like a Doctor Who Legacy fan page on Facebook. And thank you to Doctor Who Legacy for posting on your Facebook page. So we certainly did not ask anyone to do that. Just you put stuff up out on the internet and it gets shared sometimes.
It was to everyone else.
Yep. So
Yeah. So
And then
I did think about having them, but I was like,
the podcast email, and I saw this feedback. I'm like, we got woo.
Yeah, from somebody we don't know.
this never happened.
No, I mean, yeah, because our previous feedbacks have all been from people we know.
Yeah.
Which we're not going to sneeze at that.
No.
No, absolutely not. Feedback from people we know is also appreciated, but feedback from people we don't know is like just that much better.
It means that people who aren't people that we. It means other people are finding us and listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
Although it was funny, my dad called me like a week or so ago, and he's like, "Since when are you on a podcast?" And I'm like, "Have you not been paying attention?" My sister listens to us. I do know that.
So first off, how did your dad not know that? And second of all, how did your dad find out?
Yeah, because my sister was listening to it.
Oh.
And she I guess she was home for the weekend or something, and he was like, "What are you listening to?" It's like Chrissy's podcast, and he was all, "What podcast?" I guess. Knowing my sister and knowing my dad, I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's probably about how it went.
Makes sense, I guess.
Like I posted on Facebook every week. Why do you not pay attention? Anyway.
More.
Anyway, shall we start on our topic?
Yes. So let's start
We
on there.
shall. I
Let's
can
start
hear
on
you.
that. We
I
can.
hear you
We
chomping on the bit.
we can
bitch.
start on. Yes. We can start on this topic because I clawed my way and dug and sat and I killed my iPad battery more than once, but dagnabbit, I finished it. I know I've been talking about it, and I was darned. I know what I said last week. I was like, I am danged if I don't get this done, and I did. So I can safely say I watched all 4 seasons of Heroes in like a month and a half.
It's been like
Maybe bump it up on the
it's been 5 years since I watched it, so my memory is very rusty. So I may have to defer to
That's like the entire thing in preparation for this podcast episode.
Yeah. And
you are a better individual than I.
yeah, and I will.
Well, I just like it that much.
Well, that too.
I know.
Yeah.
I haven't had a lot of time though.
And Christopher Eccleston as Claude Rains. I once read a Doctor Who Heroes crossover fic that basically had that Claude Rains is basically the Ninth Doctor.
Yeah.
And rewatching it this time, I'm like, I can totally see that. This guy, he's the Ninth Doctor. I
Pretty
mean,
much.
His hair's longer, but he's the Ninth Doctor, as if he had been stuck on Earth.
It's
Yeah.
the Ninth Doctor if he let himself go.
It's the Ninth Doctor if he was stuck on Earth for 20 years and let himself go.
Pretty much. So, here's the thing with Heroes. After watching all 4 seasons in such a short amount of time, is Heroes as a television show is the equivalent of the British acting pool. Pretty much everyone is in this. People I recognize from either stuff that they did before Heroes or stuff that had watched Heroes all the way through at the time when it aired. I may have reacted differently to seeing some of these faces, but after the fact, I keep seeing these faces like, ooh, they're from Glee. Like, there's like 3 or 4 people that were on Glee, and Glee came on after Heroes. You've got one of the kids from The Nanny who ends up being Claire's roommate in season 4. I was like, where do I know her from? And I realized she's the younger daughter from The Nanny.
Really?
You've got Christopher Eccleston, and then Brittany, who I had to school her on this. And Nathan Petrelli is General Glenn Talbot from our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I knew that Nathan Petrelli was an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because every time I saw Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Peter's older brother, and he's a jerk.
He's a jerk on both shows with a guy who's got a position in the government.
Well, I mentioned David Anders, who is also in iZombie.
Yeah.
Yes. And Once Upon a
David
Time.
Anders. And
Yes. Yeah.
and Once Upon a Time.
He was yep, he's Dr. Quayle.
Yeah. Well, and Jiminy Cricket is in it as well. He's a sheriff in season 4.
Oh, I forgot about that. Like I said, it's been a while.
And then you got the more recognizable faces like George Takei, who's Hero's father, and Nichelle Nichols. So you got Star Trek.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny watching George Takei in that because it's George Takei,
Yes.
and he's like this really serious, authoritarian sort of person. And if you've ever seen him in real life, he is not that at all.
Nope.
You guys, I didn't. Rachel mentioned you guys both saw season 1 not too long ago, but did you guys catch the little Easter egg with George Takei and his car?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
And we will be remiss to say there is a Stan Lee cameo in Heroes as well.
I freaked out when I saw that.
Now the thing is with Heroes, because
Hero is getting ready to go on the bus. I'm like, it's about time for the Stanley cameo.
the fun thing about that is because Heroes came out before like the Marvel Cinematic Universe really got going. In fact,
Yes.
before superhero movies really were big.
Which was part of, I think, of its downfall.
Yeah, and that was the reason he's in there, because he's like, you know, the grandfather of superheroes, or at least on the side.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, hey, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And now he's like cameo and everything.
Mm-hmm. He's the king of cameos.
Yep.
Okay, so we should probably backtrack here.
Before, like,
Now that we know who's all in this.
And explain what the show was about. For those that don't know. Because like Chrissy said, this was pre superheroes being like a big thing like they are now. If Heroes was on now, which in a way it actually is going to be, but if it was new now, I think it would have been more successful as opposed to when it originally came on.
Well,
Maybe.
it was pretty successful, at least for the first year. And,
Yes.
you know, the writer's strike was really what hurt it the most.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Although that certainly helped my rewatch. I'm glad that season 2 was a lot shorter.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it may not be done.
Well, you made it.
I made it, so. But the whole premise is that there is a group of people in the world that most of them have abilities that manifest at a certain point in their lives, and they're people of different ages and races and genders and nationalities, and their abilities range everywhere from flight to making fire to talking to machines to you name it, and time travel, and
Ability.
three out of the four
Go
seasons they have to work together to try and save the world.
Basically, if it's a superpower in X-Men, it's probably a superpower in Heroes.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was mainlining the first season of Heroes, and then like at one point I took a break and was watching X-Men, The Last Stand. I'm like, wait a second, a lot of these are all familiar.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because the show, while it is about superheroes, it's not just about, oh hey, this person can fly, this person can teleport, this person can time travel, this person can heal really fast. It's, you know, about, you know, the characters and their stories and their lives and how they all come together, because they're all very different people, and this isn't really about forming a superhero team, because, you know, because these people, they're from all over the place, and not even just in America. And I mean, because Hero is from Japan, and then in the second season, there's a pair of siblings who are from, I don't think it's Mexico, but it's like somewhere in Latin America. Like I said, my memory's rusty on this.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some from Europe that show up at some point, and it's like, so they aren't really in a position to really be the superhero Avengers type of team.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to live their own normal lives without, you know, anybody finding out how weird they are.
Pretty much.
And some people are more excited about having superpowers than others. Hero.
Yes. I love Hero.
Yatta!
Yatta!
Oh, that's right. He's actually trying. He's actively trying to make his superpowers work. And you have Nathan Petrelli's like, I can't fly. What are you talking about? No.
Unlike his brother.
I can't have this crazy.
Yeah.
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 And Claire Bennett is, you know, documenting her superpower abilities with her best friend, who's filming her dying and coming back to life over and over again because she can heal so fast.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's these people have these abilities. They're just trying to live their life for the most part, with a few exceptions, like Hero, who actively wants to be a superhero. Nathan's brother Peter wants to be somebody. Unlike, well, Nathan wants to be someone, but not with the powers. He just wants to be a politician. Boring. And then, you know, you've got people like Matt Parkman, who just wants to be a cop.
Who I love. Yeah, he wants to be a good cop, and I love Matt Parkman.
Yeah.
He's my favorite.
And then you've got...
And it's funny.
Yeah, and then you've got... you know, people like Claire, who's a teenager. She's in high school. You know, she's got enough issues to deal with just being a teenage girl, let alone being, you know, having the ability to, you know, turn her head 180 degrees and twist it back and be just fine.
Yeah.
if
or
she
falling off the water tower.
Yeah, or popping out a
surviving.
few ribs, and, you know, how many cheerleading uniforms do you think that girl went through?
Oh, probably a lot.
But then you've also got people who have abilities and aren't of the where there's heroes, there's villains, and the longest running story arc through all 4 seasons is Sylar, played by Zachary Quinto, who Sylar could not be any more polar opposite than Spock. If you're a Zachary Quinto fan.
It was so weird seeing him in Star Trek after seeing him in Heroes. I'm just like, wait, what? Spock is who?
Yeah.
And I had the it was so weird him seeing a silo.
You know, he got the role partially because of Sylar, because when he started getting more famous playing Sylar, he mentioned that he wanted to play Spock. And then he did.
Well, there you go. Well, and his character was only supposed to be in the first season, but Sylar became so popular that they kept writing him in, and after a while it was like, okay, you've kind of run out of reasons to keep him around, but you can't really get rid of him because everybody likes him.
He's kind of indestructible after certain points.
Yeah, it was sort of like, okay, is he just going to be this, all-powerful being that no one can ever kill? And if so, your storytelling ability is kind of ruined. But
a little bit.
People weren't complaining about it.
No.
Until they were.
Yeah. Which, by the time we got to season 4, I was, we had an ongoing chat in Facebook. And I got to season 4, and I'm like, I'm kind of enjoying incapacitated Sylar here. For a nice change of pace.
Yeah. That is one. I mean, I like Sylar, don't get me wrong, but that is one complaint I have about, running your TV show based on just what the fans want, especially if you have an idea. Because that's, like I said, that's why Sylar stuck around, was because the fans liked him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, that's great, but you're kind of, losing the opportunity to grow more characters, or let more characters develop. Let other storylines develop. It's like you can do other things besides Sylar. It is possible.
Yeah.
And I say this as having been a fan of Sylar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially because there's there's a lot of characters, and you've kind of got your quote unquote main cast with like Hero and Claire and Peter and Matt and Noah Bennett, Claire's father, or HRG as most people know.
Because a long time we didn't know what his name was.
Yeah.
He was just the guy with the horn-rimmed glasses.
Yeah. So, you kind of had that group, but then you also had your other characters as well. You've got Nathan along with Peter. You've got Angela, Nathan and Peter's mom, who both their parents, the Petrelli brothers, won the lotto for like worst parents in the entire universe, I think.
Oh yeah, Mama Petrelli.
Another ongoing. If you watch Heroes, one thing that you will probably pull away by the time you get to the end of all 4 seasons is parents will do stupid things to protect their children that end up doing more harm than good. And if they don't, and it more than likely their children are set to repeat the same mistakes. And it's a perpetual cycle.
Petrelli and Daddy Nakamura. Nope.
Yeah.
You guys. You're terrible.
Yeah.
Go away.
Pretty much.
Daddy Nakamura wasn't so bad in the end.
He wasn't so bad, but he wasn't sweet.
I know, he wasn't squeaky clean, but he did try to help Hero towards the end of season 1.
He did. I mean, he was better than Angela.
Much,
Yeah.
he
But
was
they-
better than
yeah.
Angela, but that's not really saying
Yeah.
much.
That's not saying that's not
Yeah.
a high bar to clear. That's
Yeah.
like
Well, and
that bar is
yeah.
like on the ground. You could step over
Yeah.
it and not even
Yeah.
break a
Well,
sweat.
and especially once you meet Hero's mother. And
Yes.
it's like Hero's mother is like, "Oh, you're so wonderful. Why are you dead?"
Like, in,
You wonderful woman, you.
she's so wonderful, and she helped Hero so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I talk about Matt Parkman for a little while?
Yes.
It's been a long time since I've sweet over this man. I love Matt Parkman. Okay, so Matt Parkman's power is he has the ability to read minds, and Matt is like just a super nice guy. He's a police officer in his real life, and like he has a wife, and well, they're estranged to it when it starts, but later they get back together and they have a baby and everything, and it's cute. And Daddy Matt is like, oh, I love you so much. And the funny thing about Matt is like all he wants to do, like Rachel said, is be a good cop and be a good husband, good father. Just have a normal life. But he's got a sense of honor, a sense of duty, and he wants to use his powers to help people, but he can't really explain. Because when you're a police officer, you have to have evidence. You have to we've seen police procedurals before, whether and like he says, he says he can read a criminal's mind and he can ask him questions, but it sounds like he's leading the witness, or it sounds like he has information that he's not sharing, that he's involved in the crime, and he's like, no, like he's just the nice guy who's trying to use his ability, but it gets him into more trouble and more trouble and more trouble. Matt Parkman is a magnet for trouble, but you don't want him to be. It's like, oh, Matt, what are you doing? It's like, can't you think of another way to kind of, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the solution is for him, but it's just, he's just a guy who's between a rock and a hard place and trying to do the right thing and live a normal life. He's not looking for trouble, but he always finds it. And he's kind of, TV tropes, I think, probably would call him the butt monkey. Because he just, But he's just got an adorable sense of honor, and he's wonderful. I love him. He was my favorite, and he'll probably be my favorite again because he's coming back in Heroes Reborn, and I'm like, you're back, my friend. Come here and let me love
Peter
you.
was my favorite. I've got a poster on my wall. I'm looking at right now of Peter.
Oh, yeah.
He's just so...
Yeah.
It's funny because it's
watching the season 1 this past week. Like, he's so naive and lost, and
he's like, I just want to help him. That's what
in season 1 he's not much older than I am now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Yeah. There you go.
The thing is the show is called Heroes because these people have these abilities, but other than like Hero, most of them don't want to be a hero. Well, and Peter does too.
Peter does.
Yeah.
Matt does in his own way.
In his own way, but unlike
reason is not being able to, not having the powers that he needs to save people. Like, cause at the beginning of season 3, he's a paramedic, and and the person, and he's attending to a car accident victim, but the victim dies, and he ends with saying that he should have been stronger. And then at the end of season 3, he takes Mohinder's power, and Mohinder by that point has super strength.
Mm-hmm.
So then at the beginning of season 4, he's doing his job as a paramedic, and he goes to, and he rescues this pregnant woman, and he's like, I should have been faster. And then Noah Bennett tells him about this guy who's got super speed. I'm like, yeah. And he goes with Bennett to get this compass and whatever, just so he can meet this guy with super speed and get his power, so he can be faster to get to the site of accident.
Yeah, Peter's another one of those that because his power is if he touches someone with powers, he gains their power, and it's permanent, just about. Although he has a finite amount of storage space, I guess you could call it.
Well, no, it's I think in the first couple seasons, he can have, he doesn't even need to become in physical contact. He just needs to be near, because he gets Yell's power. Okay. Yell is halfway across Kirby Plaza.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay.
He can have as many powers as he wants, but then
he overloads in season 1. Yeah.
He takes his power, and he gets powers back, but it's a different power. And
he can only have one at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was probably because they were like, oh, he can have unlimited powers. This is kind of a problem storytelling-wise.
We need to pull back. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I could see that. When I was watching, I could see that happening. I'm like, he's going to be the most powerful of all, and you're not going to need out any of these other characters. So what are you going to do in that? Because even Rogue in X-Men, it's the same sort of ability, except hers is more temporary. And so it's kind of so that's her power, but it has the limitation to it, and the limitation helps, the story and makes the other characters relevant beyond just being, oh, here, let me touch you and get your power, and thanks, bye, you don't need to be here anymore because I got this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that was probably a smart move on the writer's part to be like, oh, Peter, yeah, we need to do something about that.
Yeah. Yeah, because look at Sylar, Sylar had collected all of these abilities, but then he gets the reset button kind of hit on him, but then he starts collecting more abilities again, and then it's there has to be a limit, otherwise you write yourself into a corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you do with the story?
Mm-hmm. Kind of like what they were saying, in Age of Ultron with the Vision, and they say, okay, now you've got this guy who can defeat the most powerful being on the planet. Well, now he's the most powerful being on the planet, and what do you do? Why do you need Iron Man, or why do you need Thor, or anybody else, sort of thing?
Yeah.
So they have to deal with that.
Yeah. I think the point I was trying to make, but probably wasn't doing a very good job of it, and now that I think about it, actually my point really doesn't make sense, because, well, I guess it still kind of does, is you have these people that have the potential to be heroes, and most of them don't want to, but they end up in situations where they have to be anyway. But at the end of the day, they're just human beings, and flawed human beings at that. They've got skeletons in their closet, from one thing or another. That affects who they are, as opposed to, say, a Tony Stark, who, at the end of Iron Man 1, they're trying to write off this whole, Iron Man super suit thing, and he decides at the last minute, he's like, you know what, I am Iron Man. And he decides to take the mantle and just go with it.
And he just owns it.
And he just owns it. Or, you know, Steve Rogers is Captain America. He owns it. You know, he's got his sense of duty, and he's going to do his thing, and he's going to be Captain America. But most of these people, they don't want to be Captain America or Thor, and they do a lot of, you know, the series itself is stylized. Comics play into it. You know, each season or whatever, it's a volume, and each episode is a chapter. And in the first season, and actually the last season, comic books play into it. You know, there's a comic book series created by a guy who has the ability to paint the future, and he takes what he sees and makes these comic books, but they happen to be real. So.
In the last, I think no, in season 3 it is, where there's these two guys in a comic book store, and they're having a discussion about actual events that is exactly like a discussion geeks would actually have.
Yes.
And they're like, and that actually happens in their world.
Yeah.
It's like coming to a comic book shop near you. Geeks arguing.
Have actually met. And the one guy's like, no, they haven't. Kirby Plaza doesn't count. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
It's not canon, except it is.
Yep.
But Hero and Claire met, and there's a point where Hero takes Claire back to, like, when HRG was first given baby Claire to raise.
Yeah.
So,
don't touch the baby.
Yeah. And with Hero and between Hero's ability to time travel, Peter eventually has Hero's ability for a while, then loses it, then gets it back again, and flashbacks and flash forwards. I'm kind of glad that I watch this now after watching Doctor Who, because it's easier for me to wrap my head around the timey-wimey.
Yes.
Because it gets very timey-wimey.
Yeah, I've noticed that even with other shows, and I'm like, oh, and people are like, but wait, didn't this happen? I'm like, it's okay, it's timey-wimey. And I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't Doctor Who.
Yeah.
There needs to be continuity. Doctor Who has ruined me for other shows.
Yeah, the timey-wimey can get to your head after a while, because, like, especially by the time you get to the 4th season and you've got Hero going back in time trying to save Charlie, and him taking Sylar and affecting Charlie's past, but Sylar still, the events with Sylar going to try to kill Claire at Homecoming still happens, and Sylar doesn't remember. Oh, it's just, yeah. Your head hurts after a while.
Your brain will hurt.
You're like the character Monty Python. My brain hurts.
You need to go somewhere and watch something uncomplicated, like, I don't know, nuclear physics.
You know what? I would be watching Heroes, and between just the timey-wimey and trying to keep everything straight, and the fact that it's a bit on the violent side. There would be plenty of times where I was watching it, and Chauncey would hear it it'd be background noise for him, and he's like, what is Sylar doing? He's like, is he murdering?
Gosh, especially with Sylar.
It's like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
He's like, this sounds awfully violent. It's like, well, yeah, it kind of is. So it's like, I would watch a couple episodes of Heroes, and thank goodness for Netflix, I could go from Heroes to Reading Rainbow or Mr. Rogers to try and balance it out.
Yep. Which is probably a good thing you're watching it now, with, delayed binge watching, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, a little bit, that, and just, I'm older now. It's like, I remember seeing the commercials first came on, and I remember watching season 1 up to it must be right before Peter meets Claude, because I would have remembered Christopher Eccleston's face when I started watching Doctor Who. So I obviously stopped before he encounters Claude, and then I didn't watch the rest of season 1 because at the time I was going to school full time and working full time. So a lot of if I wasn't home, this was pre the era of DVR and YouTube and all that. So if I missed it, I missed it really.
Yeah.
So, so I missed the end of season 1 and then caught the first maybe quarter of season 2 because I distinctly remember the scene in like episode 2 or 3 of season 2 where Claire cuts off her toe.
Yeah.
And I
remember that, and I was like,
I was watching season 1, and I kept waiting for that to happen, and it never did. I'm like, did I hallucinate that scene? Did it cut or something? But then it pops up in season 2. I'm like, oh, so I must have watched some of season 2 then. But then I don't remember anything after that, and I know I never watched anything of season 3 or 4. Like, life just got in the way, and I'm like, I've missed so much. I'm just not even going to bother. And I forgot about it. And then I discovered Doctor Who. And life took a turn in the other direction. But now that it's kind of come full circle, and I've been able, I was able to sit down and watch all of it and fill in the gaps and see everything that I never got to see before. I'm
and Rachel.
Yeah.
And Rachel, you mentioning the scene with Claire and her toe.
Yeah.
I like Claire well enough as a character. She's a good character and she's a good focus for season 1. But she was never my favorite character because of her ability. Because it routinely required her to, be maimed or dismembered, or like you said, cut off her toe.
Yeah.
And I was like, every time she was on the screen, I'm like, she's not gonna like have a rib sticking out at any point, is she? Because I don't know what it is. I can watch like fairly violent stuff with people getting shot and whatever. Like I watched Daredevil, and for a few scenes I didn't get too squeamish, but oh man, when she's walking around with her head turned all the way around or whatever else, I was just like, okay, girl.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like turn around and tell me when it's over.
Yeah. It can get dark. It can get dark, it can get violent, again, especially with anything involving Sylar, because Sylar likes to play with his victims, and that includes cutting open their head. And for the longest time, they let people believe that he like ate their brains, but then they kind of kiboshed that once Sylar actually got a hold of Claire. She's like, "Are you gonna eat it?" And he's like, "Claire, don't be disgusting."
I have to admit, I was kind of down that route. I'm like, what does he do? Does he eat that?
Yeah. Well, because there's several.
Doesn't really say what he does.
Yeah, well, because there's several times where you see his victims, and it looks like there's no brain in their head.
Yeah.
So you kind of think, does he eat it? But then you see some victims where the brain is still in the head. So it's like, okay, what does he actually do? And
does he just like isolate the part with the powers and say, okay, I just need that. You can keep, whatever.
Well, that's what he does with Claire, but
yeah.
But it's funny. It's just one of those things that's like, I read that somewhere. It's like people weren't sure exactly how Sylar acquired people's abilities. Like, does he eat the brain? And then they actually put that into the show as a kind of, here's your answer, people. Straight from the serial killer's mouth. No, that's disgusting.
Claire, that's disgusting. And if he thinks it's disgusting, ugh.
That tells you something.
Yeah.
And he is a serial killer by his own admission.
I love that. Was like that line made me really laugh because I'm not I feel accept like how it goes with like I'm not a serial killer, and then that kid was like going off all these things that he did. Like, okay, fine, I am a serial killer.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it just made me laugh.
And I remember seeing that like a week after you posted that. I'm like, oh, that's what she's talking about. That is funny. Oh goodness.
I have a little story. I remember seeing those and advertisements, all that for Heroes when it first came out, and I wanted to watch it, but my life was way too busy at the time. But I remember like hearing the whole thing about save the cheerleader, save the world, and I was like really confused, like what's so important about this cheerleader? And then when I started watching, and I'm like, oh, I finally get what's so important about this cheerleader.
Mm-hmm. And the tagline, it could sound so corny and so dumb, but in context, I'm like, okay, that's actually pretty cool.
Yes.
It's like, cheerleader, what? Because Claire's a cheerleader at her high school, and she's like the stereotypical, super popular head cheerleader, and she's got this really gruesome superpower. And it's like, if and the reason they have to save her is, from Sylar, is because if he gets her power, then he's going to be invincible, and everything is going to suck.
Pretty much.
And that's how, and that's spoilers. That's the whole thing about season 1, pretty much.
Save the cheerleader, save the world.
Yep.
Which
Hero
they
travels
do.
back in time.
Yeah, which they do, but then it's kind of a moot point, actually, because Peter's the one that ends up going nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it.
Well,
because that's the other thing that's foreshadowed.
It was in the original timeline, before Hero travels back and tells Peter to save the cheerleader, it was Sylar.
Yes.
That's what he changed the first time.
Yeah.
So, and then in the second timeline, it ends up being Peter, and then there has to be a different fix because of reasons.
Yes.
And that's where Nathan comes in.
Yep. Yeah. And then season 2 is the truncated season because of the writer's strike that happened that year, which, if you watched TV at all that year, you were well aware that pretty much every show got cut short.
Yeah,
because
that
of the
was
writer's strike.
2007, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So season 2 was Peter time travels from the future because of a virus that gets released and destroys 97% of the world's population.
I think it was 93.
93, a large chunk of the world's population, which again comes down to the parents who from the company. So Angela and Hero's dad and
Fido.
and
Matt's
Linderman and
Mm-hmm.
and all these people, they come up with a formula to be able to give people who don't have the genetic marker to have an ability artificially, which is where Nathan's
It's the giving people abilities.
Wait.
Season 2 is the Shanti virus.
The Shanti virus, yeah. See, it was just
Kills.
I can't keep them all straight.
And then there was there was the original virus, which killed Mohinder's older sister.
Yes.
And then they experimented with that and created a bunch of new strains. And then strain 138 was the one that, in the future, Peter went to, wiped out 93% of the world's population.
Yeah. At the timey-wimey.
It was about stopping the virus.
Right.
But the thing is, if there hadn't been for the writer's strike, episode 11 would have ended completely differently. Peter would not have caught the virus. Nathan would have been infected. And from what I hear, the plan was to have Maya be the solution to that, because her ability is poison, like she poisons people, and then Sylar helps her learn to control that, so she can sort of suck the poison back into herself, so it doesn't hurt anyone.
Mm-hmm.
She would have been able to use that to absorb the strain 138 of the virus and save everybody eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Volume 3, but because of the writer's strike, they weren't able to do that. So they went with Peter coming back from the future and shooting Nathan instead.
Right. And then season 3 is the artificial abilities.
Powers. Yeah.
Again, with the timey-wimey, it's it's tough to keep it all straight.
I watched this all when it originally aired, so I know what happened in one season.
Well, it's just the thing is, like, the first 3 seasons are, our heroes trying to fix something that their parents had set into motion. But the 4th season is so completely different than the first 3 that it stands out.
I rewatched the seasons in reverse order.
Yeah.
And the start of season 4 is so much more of a clean slate than the previous 2 season openers. Like, you can start watching season 4 and they explain most of what you need to know.
Yeah.
You start watching season 3, you're still dealing with a lot of baggage from the end of season 2. So it's like, if you haven't seen season 2 before, then you're completely lost. If it has been a while since you watched season 2, then you're still kind of lost because, like, oh yeah, that and what else? That, oh yeah, that.
Yeah.
I think. So and similar thing with season 2, because that, even though there's a bit of a time jump skip between the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2, there's still a lot of fallout.
Yeah.
With emotional fallout with the characters and stuff, and where they're still bouncing back from what happened at the end of season 1.
Yep. And it makes my head hurt. It makes my
like you said, it's a good thing you'd seen Doctor Who.
Yes, because they're timey-wimey. There's a lot of timey-wimey. So.
Yep. And a lot of timelines getting rewritten and just random stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, time, like, that's a big part of this, is time being rewritten. Like, they see a horrible future, they're like, we have to stop this from happening, and then they do.
Yeah.
They do, and then it's like,
but that
made it worse.
Yeah, that lays the groundwork for something more terrible to happen. Potentially. So. And now we're getting Heroes Reborn, which picks up 5 years later with who knows what. Well, we kind of know. We kind of know what if you've been watching the shorts on YouTube.
If you've seen Dark Matters,
yes.
The short things, episodes that they released, then that kind of
lets you
know what's been happening, kind of, and then sets the very end of that sort of sets up
right.
the beginning of Heroes Reborn.
Which actually, some of the stuff that happens in season 3 unintentionally, or they saw that and because of who they were able to get back for Reborn, they were like, oh, we can pick up that thread and go on with it with Micah. Micah was Rebel in season 3, and now he's kind of leading the rebellion again, headed into Reborn. If you watch the stuff on YouTube, I was like, I watched the shorts and stuff on YouTube, and all the little interviews and the Comic-Con panel and all that fun stuff, and it got to the you've got this guy whose sister is an Evo, but he's not, and he's real supportive of his sister, but then his sister gets wrapped up in some stuff, and he teams up with this anonymous person on the internet who wants to help kind of clear the Evos, because the Evos are not, for them, up to a certain point, they're able to live their life. They have to, carry around special identification, but then an incident happens at Primatech. All comes back to Primatech. And yeah, so and then that sets off a series of events, and he, at first he thinks his sister died, but then he realizes that there's this cover up and she's still alive, so he's working with this, these anonymous people, and it turns out to be Micah, which totally makes sense. I'm like, woohoo, Micah's back.
Yeah, well, I suspected it was Micah at the start of the second video when he slams his head and all the computer screens go. His hands down and all the computer screens go off.
Yeah.
And
it makes sense because that's something that Micah already did in the first series.
And then we get to the end and Quentin meets him and is like, "You can call me Micah." I'm like, Micah! And Micah!
Yeah.
Poor, my dear.
Yeah.
I love Micah.
Yeah. It's been kind of funny because, with knowing that Heroes Reborn is coming back, and we've had these trailers, and obviously we had the panel at San Diego, so it's like we know some of the people that are coming back. So as I was watching Heroes, I'm like, okay, you're gonna live, you're gonna stay alive, because I know you're coming back. So it's like, Mohinder, I know you're gonna stay alive. Obviously, Noah, you're staying alive. Micah's coming, Parkman's coming back, so I know Parkman's gonna live. But then,
That's why I was trying to avoid all of that when I was watching, because,
yeah.
I don't want to, I was still worried about them if they're in, tense situations, but I wanted to really worry about them.
Yeah.
Weird like that.
Yeah. And that's completely understandable, but at the same time, it's like, there's people that we, as far as we know, aren't coming back, but when we left the show, they were still alive, so there's the potential for maybe a cameo here or there. It just kind of depends. They may have not been able to get the person back for the entire series, but you never know. We may get a name drop or a person show up for just a single scene or a phone call or something. It's like, is Peter's still alive, but as far, Siler's still alive, as far as we know. So I know there's also other shorts and comics that are supposed to be canon as well that I haven't read or seen, so I may be missing some character development somewhere. Maybe.
I have a couple of volumes of the web comics that were released. I don't know what happened to the web comics that weren't published in a physical form, but
yeah,
because they were it wasn't really that it impacted on the show itself. It was just kind of supplemental, bonus. You could read these comics if you wanted to know a little more, but it didn't really. But if you didn't read them, it wouldn't impact your enjoyment of the show.
Right.
So,
so if certain faces show back up, I'll be pleasantly surprised, I guess. But there's some that I obviously, if you've watched the trailer and the commercials for the show, we know that Mohinder is alive and coming back. Angela Petrelli is coming back. We've seen her in the trailer. Obviously, the big one is Noah Bennett and the Haitian are coming back. Which the Haitian actually has a name, but we still just refer to him as the Haitian.
kind of the same thing as calling Noah Bennett HRG. It's just stuck.
Yes.
Even on Netflix, even long after we know his name was Noah, they still called it MHRG. I'm like, oh right, that's him.
Yeah.
And that was just a fandom nickname, but now it's kind of become
stuck.
He's HRG.
He's HRG.
Yep.
Very much so. I'm glad that Hero's coming, but Hero's my favorite. I love Hero.
Yeah,
Hero is awesome.
He's adorable
and horrible, and and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of want to have a campaign as much as I really want Colin Baker to come to PopCon next year. I kind of want to start a secondary campaign for Masioka.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Like-
think if he's.
I want to meet him.
I've never heard of him going to conventions, but he could. With Heroes Reborn coming out, I don't see why.
It's a
the whole cast couldn't
possibility.
start.
I've seen pictures of people with Milo at conventions recently. So he played Peter.
he's the
So-
I'd want to meet.
I've seen him in pictures at like I think Wizard World. I think he's part of the Wizard World Comic-Con circuit, unfortunately. But you know, it's a possibility. You know, you don't know until you ask. So I may have to start a secondary campaign. Get Colin Baker and Masioka to Indie PopCon 2016, so I can go. My doctor, Yetai.
I really do. Yeah, that.
Yeah, just I think you know I remember enjoying watching Heroes at the time. It's just, you know, life got in the way, so I wasn't able to watch it like it deserved to get the viewing that it needed. But now, after watching Doctor Who and appreciating timey-wimey, but also the fact that I am so into Marvel and the superheroes, because I was not a superhero person, really. So I'm kind of glad that I'm watching it now.
Changed.
So I'm really able to appreciate this whole superhero, you know, genre thing, and the nods and the Hero and Ando, his friend Ando, are constantly referring to the, you know, Hero as Batman and Ando as Robin, but he hates being Robin, and making all these superhero references and having the Stanley. I wouldn't have known that Stanley cameo would have gone completely over my head when it originally aired. But now I'm all like, yes, I get that. That's that's Stanley. I totally get that. That's hilarious. And
So
all
it's
all
good.
this other
It's
stuff,
good that
so.
you're watching it like this now,
Yes.
so you can appreciate it more and enjoy it.
Yeah, and as I was watching it and just watching more of it, towards the end, you know, there was part of me that's like, oh, I'm almost done. I'm kind of sad, but at the same time, I'm like, thank God, because it's a lot. That is a lot of television to watch in that short amount of time. Because I started this like 6 weeks ago. So I watched 4 seasons of a TV show in like 6 weeks. Which, 3 of the 4 seasons were like 20 plus episodes. So that's a lot of TV.
It's like that meme of
Yeah.
It's like that meme with the 10th Doctor says I think it's the 10th Doctor, and he says you've watched 4 seasons in 6 weeks, and that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
So, by the time I got to the end, I was like, yay, I'm done. I don't feel, because I felt like I was under pressure trying to finish this thing before Heroes Reborn comes back. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, it's over. I'm kind of sad.
I was the same way.
It's not over for very much longer. 'Cause
I
it's
know.
coming back.
I know.
Next week.
Which is what makes it so exciting. So, Holly, if you ever get around to it, don't feel like you need to
Premiere of
binge
Heroes
it.
Reborn was actually at the Toronto International Film Festival this past week,
Yeah.
which I wanted to go because they showed the first 2 episodes, but I couldn't because work.
Yeah.
But think of it this way: if you had seen it at the film festival, you wouldn't be able to really talk to us about it because we haven't seen it. And then when it's on TV, it wouldn't be new to you.
The first episode is this. I can't tell you.
I know.
I like. Yeah.
You get to watch it brand new next week with the rest of us. Well,
Next
all
week.
but me because I'll be at Comic-Con.
I've been listening to this Heroes podcast called The 10th Wonder, which back in the day they were like the Heroes podcast, and it looks to be more of the same this time around. They've got 5 episodes so far, and I've been listening to them talk, and Heroes Reborn is roughly the same length as a season of Doctor Who. So, and I've been approaching that, like all the length of the series and all the promotional stuff that's been coming out as a Doctor Who fan. Like this like tons of promotion for a 13 episode season. Okay, that's what I'm used to. But they're like completely baffled by all the they're like, and then like
it's like, wow, this promotion for something so short.
All this promotion for a short,
like obviously they're not Doctor Who fans.
This is run of the mill for Doctor Who, like,
which they are obviously not fans.
This is an event. This is an event. Because this show hasn't been on for so long. It still has a dedicated fan base. And, they put so much work and effort into getting this back on the air and getting so much of the original cast. Of course they should promote the heck out of it. And they should just, go to town. And, if they get another season or another round of it, then great.
Yeah.
But, enjoy it while you have it. And don't, they're probably just shocked. They're like, oh, I never got this back today. And, back in 2006, 2007, TV, like, nowadays, there's just tons of really good TV on nowadays. And there's a lot of superhero stuff, and we've just been spoiled. Back when Heroes was on, was first on, it was this great show, and everybody was so surprised by how good it was, because TV back then was sort of like, eh. I mean, you had 24, which was really popular, and CSI was really popular, but, there wasn't anything really sci-fi that was really huge and big and that did well. And Heroes kind of came out of nowhere really be that. It was kind of a precursor to what we have now. So if you want to think about that, it's like Heroes paved the way for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Arrow and Flash and Once Upon a Time and Sleepy Hollow, and I'm just trying to think of other ones off the top of my head. I can't, but those are the ones I thought of. We look next week. We're seeing all of our shows coming back, and it's like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Yes.
And Heroes kind of started that. Like people kind of thought, oh, TV could actually be good. Here, let's try and think of some good ideas, and here we are now.
Well, I just did a search on the creator Ken Crane, and he's done quite a few other TV shows. He's done Touch, he's done Dig, he's done Crossing Jordan, and Providence. I mean, wow. He's got Chicago Hope, and he's got quite the list behind it. And I believe Heroes is going to be moving up on my to-watch.
See, 4 seasons in less than a week, Holly.
Season. Okay.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, but season 1's got 23 episodes, season 2's got 11, season 3's got 25, and season 4's got 18.
Okay, there's new shows. How I do. It will be watched.
All I know is now I can get back to my library.
And you don't need to sleep. You can do it.
Yep.
Word? What's that? Who cares?
Yeah.
Thursday night, watching the rest of season 1. Because I was,
I'm ready. I'm so ready. I'm so ready for it to, this to
bring it on.
air.
Let's get this party started, right?
Yeah. It's stuff has slowly been coming back. It's like as we're recording, Doctor Who is back, and
yay!
The Heroes is next, I think. Although the Muppets starts next week or on Tuesday, but that's not a coming back really because it's a new series. But
yeah.
But,
well, in its own way, it's coming back.
Yes. In a way.
Yeah.
So.
I put a link in the show notes for this. Have you heard of the Funny Music Project?
Can't say as I have.
No, but it sounds interesting.
Well, they did a song back in 2007 about heroes. So I put a link to that in the notes.
No, okay.
So, what did you think of the Doctor Who reference in season 1 with Christopher Eccleston and?
Fantastic.
I remember he said fantastic.
He did. I was freaking.
Peter says
I was
to
like-
Claude Rains, "If I hadn't regenerated, I'd be dead."
Which back in the day, probably not a lot of people in America knew much about Doctor Who.
Probably
So I would've
not.
gone way over it. But
Right there, the first hearing that was probably what, like, becoming a Doctor Who fan. Especially
All I know-
afterwards, I heard people who were familiar with Doctor Who talking about how this was a Doctor Who reference. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay.
All I know
And you're
is
like,
is
how?
yeah is Christopher Eccleston appeared and one of his first lines included the word fantastic, and I'm like, yes, he said the thing.
Yeah, I was.
And this must have been like one of his first, if not his very first job after Doctor Who,
Yes,
possibly.
pretty darn. It would have had to have been pretty darn close to it because it started in 2006, right? Yeah.
Yep.
2006. So.
Like, his Christopher Eccleston did his one season in Doctor Who 2005,
Yep.
and then he moved on and he did Heroes in like a year or two later.
Yep.
And he was in a G.I. Joe movie somewhere in there. I don't remember
Yeah.
the time frame on that.
That was.
We ignore
I don't know
that.
when that was.
Well, see, I haven't seen it, so I'm like, I don't know. Anyway.
I've seen it, and I watched it a few times, mainly because I always say Christopher Eccleston looks good in suit.
Can't argue with that logic. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's Heroes, everybody.
Yeah, really.
Yep.
In a nutshell, you really
And
just
it's
have to
funny,
watch it.
Yeah, and it's funny that we covered 4 seasons of Heroes in probably
An
2
hour.
hours or less. An hour.
Yeah.
You go
Yeah,
blow my
minus
bluff.
the news.
No,
That's
the
true.
only
And I'm like, and our Once
yeah.
Upon a Time podcast remains the longest
3.
at 3 hours, covering 3 seasons.
yeah.
Of course, that's a little more
Tim
complex.
Payne said I think it was at Comic-Con, that to be caught up for Heroes Reborn, what you really need to watch is the first season and then the last episode of the last season to really
Right.
know what's going on.
Because
So
that's
like the first
that's the
season to
catalyst.
kind of get you on topic with like what this world is like and all these like the characters and whatnot, and then the last episode of the last season, so you know where things were left off.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Which intrigues me, considering what the cliffhanger of season 4, considering what the cliffhanger of season 4 was, and considering who is probably not going to be in Heroes Reborn because this individual is currently in another TV show, and which is doing very well.
It doesn't necessarily stop it. Masioka's also doing Hawaii 5-0, so.
4 is picked up.
Okay, that's true.
It's picked up in Dark Matters with other people making similar videos.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
And then Dark Matters
So I was like,
have bridges. So I'm still
Okay.
one of your
because I'm still hung up on that cliffhanger, and I have been for 5
Dark
years.
Matters.
Yeah.
So if you watch those things, you should be on the up and up for Heroes Reborn.
Yep.
So There you go.
Yatai!
Yatta! I feel like that should be our sign off.
That's what I felt like when I finished the series. I got to this finale, season 4, and that's what I posted on Facebook. It was Hero going, Yatta! Like, this is how I feel. 4 seasons in 6 weeks.
I saw that. Maybe that should be the image when you post it on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yatta!
And speaking of our Instagram,
yeah, I completely
find
left out
all of
all
our-
this last week. I don't know if anybody realized that. We finished the show last week, and I didn't do any of our, like, you can find us here and here and here. So.
well, speaking of,
Yeah.
you can find us on the interwebs at the 5ish Fangirls Podcast.blogspot.com, and there you will find links to all of our social media outlets: Facebook, Twitter, the aforementioned Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest. We're also on iTunes and YouTube, which is where you can find the podcast. iTunes is probably the easiest, but YouTube is also acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also leave us a review on iTunes, which is also very helpful, and support us if you can on Patreon, and we appreciate all of our Patreon supporters that help us bring many squee and tangents to your glorious earbuds.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But you know, and you can send us feedback at our email address, 5ishfangirls@gmail.com. Then that's all at the website. So just go to the website and you'll find us all there.
Mhm.
And we love to hear from all of our listeners and to interact with you on the socials.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep,
So that is,
that's us.
That's all we got, folks. Don't forget to join us next Saturday night for episode 1
Nice.
And
of
we'll
Star Wars with
include
Friends.
a link to the 10th Wonder podcast website in
Mhm.
the show notes, so you can check them out. And they've got like news and all the places that you can find all the stuff that they talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they've got, and I just checked their website, and it turns out they've got 6 episodes out.
Nice.
They released 1 since the last time I checked.
Cool.
So-
Yay, more
and
podcasts.
And episode 6 is talking about Dark Matters.
Nice.
So,
So yes, everything and anything can be found on our blog. It'll either be in the notes for the show or its own separate post. We'll probably put
got
Christopher's Doctor Who Legacy tips as a completely independent post of its own, just because there's so many of them, so they deserve a post of their
definitely
own.
check that out.
So, for all our Doctor Who Legacy players, Star Wars with Friends next week, episode 1, The Phantom Menace, hashtag Star Wars with Friends. I'm probably going to use hashtag episode and use the Roman numeral for the each movie. Because The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones is probably too many characters for Twitter, so. But you can use whatever you want, just hashtag Star Wars with Friends, and we will be discussing Doctor Who next week, so The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar, if you want to send in feedback for that. And Chrissy will be at Salt Lake Comic Con, so she will have a recap of that probably the week after that. Because Chrissy will
some point,
be
when
recovering.
yeah, it'll be nuts, crazy.
Crazy.
Anyway,
Cray.
so alrighty, well,
And we need to sign off because Holly has not yet watched Doctor Who yet. So
oh yeah, we better get.
I can hear her. She's trying to be patient, but I can tell she's getting anxious.
Who wants to go? Let's get Holly on her merry way
Yeah,
to
so-
Magician's Apprentice.
Yeah. So with that, we shall sign off for this week.
This is Brittany and Belvedere saying Yatta!
Shoot, you stole my idea! Well, I better just this is Christy in Salt Lake City saying, Yatta! And good night.
This is all I've been thinking evening and what the heck?
Yay! Totally did it! Totally did it!
Yay! This is Mitch in Kitchener, Ontario saying Yatta! And good night.
Oh my. And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana, saying Yatta, and this has been attempt number, well, I've lost track. Good night, everyone.
You have been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Any and all movies, books, games, and other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by their respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied.